The world is testing you right now. Every setback, every betrayal, every sleepless night. It's all a silent war for your spirit. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger, warned the Buddha. Think about that. What's crushing you isn't the chaos around you, it's the storm inside you. You're drowning in stress, numbing the pain with distractions, begging life to go easy. But it won't. Because here's the truth. Resilience isn't a gift. It's a weapon, and you're about to learn how to forge it. You've tried self-care, you've downloaded the apps, you've screamed into pillows. Yet here you are, exhausted, brittle, one crack away from shattering. Why? Because nobody told you the real secret. Ancient warriors didn't survive battles by hiding. They transformed pain into power. Imagine facing your boss's rage, your debts, your loneliness, and instead of crumbling, you thrive. What if your darkest moments could become your greatest allies? This isn't theory, this is survival. For the next 15 minutes, I'm handing you 10 forbidden Buddhist strategies to hack your suffering. Tactics used by monks, soldiers, and survivors to turn agony into armor. One of these secrets alone rewired my mind after I lost everything. But the final lesson. It's so radical, so unfairly effective, that if you forget everything else, remember this. It will change how you breathe, fight, and live. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop surviving and start warrioring? If your soul's screaming yes, don't move, don't blink, and do not look away. Lesson number 1. Master the mind, not the storm. A storm rages across the ocean, waves crashing against a lone boat. The wind howls, the sky darkens, and the sailor grips the rudder tightly. Fear grips his heart. He wants to stop the storm, calm the sea, force the winds into submission. But he knows that's impossible. Instead, he takes a deep breath and focuses on what he can control. His mind, his hands, his direction. The storm will pass, but only if he stays steady. This is resilience. This is wisdom. And this is what Buddhism teaches us about enduring life's storms. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. These words from the Buddha hold the key to resilience. Most people believe strength comes from controlling their surroundings, fixing problems, forcing solutions, resisting difficulties. But true power is not about controlling the storm. It's about mastering the mind that faces it. You don't calm the ocean by fighting the waves. You learn to sail. Think about your own life. Stress at work, conflicts in relationships, financial struggles. Each of these feels like a storm threatening to pull you under. The natural reaction: fight, control, resist. But what if resilience isn't about battling the storm, but about shifting your focus inward? A warrior does not try to change the battlefield. He sharpens his sword. Your sword is awareness. This is where meditation becomes a weapon, not just a practice. When you sit in silence, you train your mind to detach from the chaos. You observe your thoughts, your fears, your worries, without becoming them. The pressure of society, the fear of failure, the endless comparisons on social media. These are external storms. They will come and go. But your mind, that's your rudder, and only you can steer it. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding that no matter what happens, you will not react impulsively. Someone insults you, you breathe. A problem arises, you stay centered. This is the power of mindfulness. The ability to pause before reacting gives you strength over any storm life throws your way. Here's the twist. Control isn't about force, it's about letting go. The more you try to control every outcome, the more suffering you create. The sailor who grips the rudder too tightly will strain his arms, lose focus, and tire quickly. The one who learns to move with the waves, adjusting with awareness and patience, survives the storm. Life's hardships are no different. The moment you let go of your need to control the external world, you reclaim control of your inner world. If you doubt this, test it. The next time you feel overwhelmed, stop, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this?" ask, "How do I navigate this with a calm mind?" The moment you shift your focus inward, the storm outside loses its grip on you. So ask yourself, what external storm am I trying to control that's distracting me from steering inward? Write it down, name the storm. Then remind yourself, you are not the storm, you are the one navigating through it. That is the first secret to resilience. The battle is not outside you, it is within. 2. Emotions are fire. Tend, don't extinguish. A fire can be your greatest ally or your most destructive enemy. Imagine sitting by a campfire on a cold night. The flames provide warmth, light, and protection. But if you throw too much wood on it or leave it unattended, it becomes a wildfire, burning everything in its path. Emotions work the same way. When tended with awareness, they guide you. When left unchecked, they consume you. Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." Yet, in moments of frustration, sadness, or fear, we grip that coal tightly, believing that feeding the fire of our emotions will somehow bring us relief. We lash out in anger, dwell in sorrow, or react impulsively, only to find ourselves suffering even more. The truth? Resilience is not about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding them. Think of the last time you felt intense anger. Maybe someone disrespected you, a friend betrayed your trust, or life simply felt unfair. Your chest tightened, your thoughts raced, and the fire inside you burned wildly. The natural reaction: fight back. Say something sharp, take immediate action. But what if, instead of feeding the fire, you simply observed it? A warrior doesn't fear fire, he studies it. He understands that anger is not an enemy, it's a signal. It reveals something deeper, an unhealed wound, an unmet need, a boundary crossed. Instead of reacting, he watches the flames with patience, knowing that if he stays still, the fire will eventually settle into embers. This is the power of mindfulness. Here's how you apply this. The next time you feel a strong emotion, anger, jealousy, frustration, pause. Don't speak, don't act, just breathe. Inhale deeply, acknowledging the emotion. Exhale, letting go of the need to react. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Instead of being consumed by the flames, step back and observe their glow. You'll realize that anger, when understood, transforms into clarity. Sadness, when embraced, turns into wisdom. Fear, when faced, becomes courage. Modern life constantly ignites our emotions. A toxic email from a colleague, a disappointing text from a loved one, a frustrating delay in your plans. It's easy to let these moments spark wildfires, but true resilience is in the pause. That moment before you respond, that breath before you act, that space where clarity is born. And here's the twist. Emotions are not meant to be extinguished. Many people believe resilience means being unaffected, but that's not the goal. Fire is not bad, it's necessary. Anger can drive change, sadness can deepen compassion, fear can sharpen awareness, but only if you tend to them with wisdom. If you suppress your emotions, you suffocate your own growth. If you let them control you, they destroy your peace. The key is balance. So today, ask yourself, which emotion's smoke is clouding my clarity? Write it down. Look at it without judgment. Then, instead of reacting, breathe, observe, let the fire settle. Because resilience is not about extinguishing emotions, it's about mastering the way you tend to them. 3. Muddy waters grow the strongest roots. A banyan tree stands tall, its branches stretching wide, its roots gripping the earth with unshakable strength. But look closer. That strength did not come from ease. It came from struggle. The deeper the roots, the harsher the storms they have weathered. The tree did not resist the winds. It grew because of them. This is resilience. This is the truth Buddhism reveals. Suffering is not the obstacle, it is the path. No mud, no growth. These words remind us that pain is not our enemy. It is our greatest teacher. But most people spend their lives avoiding it. We escape discomfort, push away hardship, and reject suffering as if it were a mistake in the design of life. Yet, the banyan tree does not reject the wind. It bends, it roots deeper, and because of that, it stands firm. What if, instead of resisting our struggles, we leaned into them? Think of a moment in your life that broke you. Perhaps a loss, a failure, a betrayal. It felt unbearable. You wished it away, longed for it to be different. But looking back, didn't it shape you? Didn't it carve a new version of yourself? Stronger, wiser, more aware. Growth is not found in comfort. It is found in the moments that challenge us to our core. Imagine losing your job. At first, it feels like a disaster. The fear, the uncertainty, it's overwhelming. But within that space of loss, there is also an opening, a chance to start over, to build something better, to rediscover yourself. This is the truth of suffering. It creates space for transformation. A banyan tree does not grow in perfect soil. It grows where it must fight to survive. And because of that, its roots go deeper, its foundations stronger. Yet here's the twist. Pain itself is not the problem. Avoidance is. The more you resist discomfort, the more suffering tightens its grip. You cannot outrun hardship, but you can decide how you meet it. The moment you stop fearing struggle, it loses its power over you. You stop being a victim of life's storms and start becoming the one who weathers them. So, what does this mean for you? It means reframing pain, not as a punishment, but as preparation. It means seeing every setback as an invitation to grow. It means understanding that the most unshakable strength comes from the deepest struggles. The next time life throws you into the mud, don't resist it. Plant your roots in it, learn from it, grow through it. Now ask yourself, what mud am I resisting that could anchor my growth? Write it down, face it, and then remind yourself, the storm is not here to break you, it is here to shape you. Like the banyan tree, you are meant to rise, not despite the winds, but because of them. 4. The river never flows backward. A river never flows backward. No matter how many rocks obstruct its path, no matter how many twists and turns it takes, it keeps moving forward. Over time, it carves deep canyons, shaping the land itself. This is resilience, not in resisting change, but in flowing with it. Life, like the river, is always moving. Yet so many people get stuck, clinging to the past, longing for what once was, or mourning what could have been. The truth is, the more you resist the current, the more you struggle. The moment you surrender to the flow, you rediscover your strength. All conditioned things are impermanent. These words from the Buddha are not meant to bring sadness, but freedom. Nothing in life is fixed. Your struggles, your identity, even your pain. Yet when faced with loss, we often try to hold on. A relationship ends, and instead of moving forward, we replay old conversations, wonder what we could have done differently, and resist the reality of change. A dream falls apart, and we get trapped in nostalgia, longing for a version of life that no longer exists. But what if, instead of grasping at the past, you asked, what is this moment shaping me into? Think of a river after a storm. The water crashes into rocks, splits into new streams, and sometimes even carves a completely new path. But does it stop? It adapts. It creates something new. This is how you must face hardship. Not by wishing for things to go back to how they were, but by embracing what's next. Growth is never found in the past. It exists in the space ahead of you. Imagine the pain of heartbreak. The instinct is to resist, to hold on, to relive memories, to fear what's ahead. But if you shift your mindset, you'll see something else. This pain is not just an ending. It is the carving of a new self. The version of you that emerges from this will be different, stronger, wiser, and more aware. Letting go is not losing. It is making space for who you are becoming. But here's the challenge. Letting go is not passive. It requires courage. The courage to step into uncertainty, to trust that what lies ahead may be greater than what you left behind. The courage to forgive yourself and others for the mistakes of the past. The courage to stop waiting for closure that may never come and create your own resolution instead. The river does not ask, "Why did this rock fall in my way?" It simply moves forward, knowing that its path is being shaped, not destroyed. Now think about your own life. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? Is it an identity that you've outgrown? A regret that weighs you down? A dream that once made sense but no longer fits who you are becoming? The past is not your home. It was a stop on the journey, but you were never meant to stay there. The more you try to force life into what it was, the more you miss what it's trying to become. Resilience is not found in standing still. It is found in movement. The river does not mourn the bends in its path. It uses them to carve something greater. The same applies to you. There is no strength in resisting what has already changed. There is only power in embracing what is next. So, ask yourself, what part of my past am I holding on to that is keeping me from flowing forward? Write it down. Reflect on it. Then let it go, because the river never flows backward, and neither should you. 5. The mountain's core is unshakable. A mountain stands unmoved. Storms crash against its peak, rain erodes its surface, and winds howl in fury. Yet, at its core, it remains unshaken. This is the essence of resilience, not reacting to every passing storm, but standing firm in your foundation. Life, like the weather, is unpredictable. Some days bring sunshine, others bring tempests. If your peace depends on external conditions, you will always be at their mercy. But if you cultivate strength within, no storm can uproot you. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. These words from the Buddha hold a profound truth. The world will never stop testing you. There will always be challenges, criticism, failures, disappointments. But the question is, where are you rooted? If your self-worth is built on external approval, one harsh word can shake you. If your confidence depends on success, one failure can break you. True resilience is found in your core, in the unshakable values that define who you are. Imagine being criticized at work. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to prove your worth. But what if instead you took a deep breath and asked, what part of me feels threatened by this? Criticism only wounds when it strikes against insecurity. If you anchor yourself in self-compassion, in the knowledge that your value is not determined by one opinion, the words lose their power over you. Like a mountain, you remain steady. Think of the greatest teachers, the wisest leaders, the most admirable figures in history. Were they hardened by their struggles? They were softened, shaped by time like a mountain worn smooth by the elements. Strength is not rigidity, it is adaptability. A tree that does not bend in the wind will break. A mind that does not open to wisdom will stay trapped in suffering. Resilience is not about being untouched by life, but about allowing experience to shape you without losing your essence. Here's the twist. The strongest people are not those who fight the hardest. They are the ones who let go, the ones who do not waste energy resisting reality, but embrace it with wisdom and grace. True warriors do not stand rigid against the storm. They let the winds pass through them. They do not see struggle as an enemy, but as a sculptor refining them into something greater. Now, reflect on your own life. Where is your core? Are you rooted in self-compassion, wisdom, and inner peace? Or are you swayed by every opinion, every failure, every unexpected turn? When you cultivate inner strength, the storms of life may shake your surface, but they will never break you. Ask yourself, what external force am I allowing to dictate my inner peace? Write it down, recognize it, then remind yourself, like the mountain, you are unshakable where it matters most. 6. The sword is forged in the flame. A blade is not born sharp. It is forged in fire, shaped under pressure, and refined through countless strikes. Without the heat, without the hammering, it remains just a piece of metal, full of potential, but untested. Life works the same way. Challenges are not punishments. They are the fire that tempers your spirit. The struggles you face are not obstacles to your growth. They are the very thing that sharpens you. But here's the problem. Most people avoid the fire. They fear difficulty, resist discomfort, and retreat at the first sign of adversity. Yet the strongest steel is not the one that avoids the flames, but the one that endures them. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. This Buddhist proverb carries a truth most people overlook. Pain is a fact of life. You will experience failure, rejection, loss. But suffering is how you interpret the pain. It is the resistance, the refusal to accept what is, the internal struggle against reality. If you see pain as an enemy, you will suffer. But if you see it as a teacher, you will grow. Imagine a blacksmith working on a sword. Each time it is heated, it becomes more malleable. Each strike strengthens it. If the blade were to resist the process, to refuse the fire, it would remain weak, easily broken, unable to serve its purpose. Now think about your own life. Maybe you're facing a challenge right now, a creative block, a career setback, a personal hardship. Your instinct might be to fight against it, to wish it away. But what if instead you asked, how is this fire shaping me? Consider a writer struggling with inspiration. Frustration builds. The blank page becomes a battlefield. But what if the block is not a wall, but a lesson in patience? What if, instead of forcing creativity, they learn to sit in stillness, to trust that the right words will come when the mind is ready? Suddenly, the fire is not an enemy. It is the forge refining their discipline. Here's the twist. The very thing you're avoiding might be the key to your strength. The fire you fear is the fire that will sharpen you. Instead of running from discomfort, lean into it. Instead of resenting hardship, ask what it is trying to teach you. Growth is not found in ease. It is found in the flames. The sharper the blade, the greater the tests it has endured. So what does this mean for you? It means embracing difficulty as part of your journey. It means understanding that resilience is not built in comfort, but in struggle. Every setback, every failure, every moment of doubt, it is all part of the forging process. The question is not whether you will face the fire. The question is whether you will let it shape you or break you. Ask yourself, what fire am I avoiding that could sharpen my purpose? Write it down. Reflect on it. Then step into the flames. Because the strongest sword is not the one that avoids the heat. It is the one that has been tested by it. 7. Bend like bamboo, never break. In the midst of a storm, a mighty oak stands firm, resisting the winds with its sheer strength. But when the storm grows too fierce, its rigid branches snap. Meanwhile, the bamboo bends, swaying with the force of the wind. It does not fight the storm, it moves with it. and when the winds pass, it stands tall once more. This is resilience. Not in resistance, not in force, but in flexibility. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who know how to bend and rise again. In the confrontation between the stream and the rock, the stream always wins, not through strength, but through persistence. The Buddha's words hold a simple but profound truth. Life is unpredictable. It will change, shift, and test you in ways you never expected. If you approach it with rigidity, with an unwillingness to adapt, you will break under the weight of your own resistance. But if you learn to flow, to bend with the currents of life, nothing can truly shake you. Think about the last time life threw something unexpected your way. Maybe it was a sudden job loss, a breakup, or an unexpected move to a new city. The instinct is to resist, to fight against the change, to hold on to what was familiar. But what if, instead of seeing change as a threat, you saw it as an invitation? What if, instead of gripping tightly to the past, you allowed yourself to bend, to adjust, to embrace what comes next? Consider someone who loses a job they once loved. The initial reaction is fear, fear of the unknown, fear of failure. But what if that job loss isn't an ending, but a redirection? What if, by adapting, they find something even more aligned with who they are meant to become? The person who stays rigid in their fear remains stuck. The person who bends with the moment discovers new possibilities. Here's the twist. Resistance creates fragility. Surrender creates resilience. Many people misunderstand surrender. They think it means giving up, accepting defeat. But true surrender is an act of wisdom. It is knowing that you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. It is understanding that fighting change only drains your energy, while adapting to it makes you stronger. So, what does this mean for your life? It means shifting your mindset from control to curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" It means understanding that life is not about never falling. It is about learning how to rise. It means knowing that flexibility is not weakness, but the very foundation of strength. The bamboo does not fight the storm. It trusts itself to bend, knowing it will stand tall again. Ask yourself, where in my life am I resisting when I should be adapting? Write it down, reflect on it, then practice bending, not breaking. Because those who endure are not those who fight the wind, but those who learn to move with it. 8. The forest thrives together. A single tree standing alone in a storm is vulnerable. Its roots may be deep, but without the shelter of others, the winds can uproot it. Yet in a forest, trees do not stand alone. Beneath the surface, their roots intertwine, sharing water, nutrients, even warnings of danger. When one tree is weak, the others sustain it. When one tree falls, the forest reclaims it, turning loss into nourishment for new life. This is resilience, not in isolation, but in connection. Strength does not come from standing alone. It comes from standing together. Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us that giving to others does not take away from us. In fact, it multiplies our light. Yet in difficult times, we often retreat inward, convinced that no one can understand our pain. We withdraw, believing that healing is a solitary journey. But this is an illusion. Healing is found in community, in sharing burdens, in recognizing that suffering is not meant to be carried alone. Think about a moment when you struggled, yet kept it to yourself. Maybe you told yourself, "I don't want to burden anyone." Maybe you thought no one would understand. But what happened? Did the pain disappear? Or did it grow heavier, sinking deeper into you? Now recall a time when someone else was struggling. and you offered them support. You listened, you comforted, you stood beside them. Did it drain you, or did it strengthen you both? The truth is, when we help others, we do not lose our strength, we expand it. Imagine someone facing loss, isolating themselves in their grief. The pain festers, turning into loneliness, despair. But now, imagine if they reached out, joined a support group, talked to a friend, allowed themselves to be seen. The pain would not vanish, but something would change. It would be shared, and in sharing it would become lighter. The burden divided is the burden made bearable. Here's the twist. Helping others heal is how you heal yourself. Many believe they must be whole before they can give to others, but the act of giving is what makes you whole. When you lift someone else, you remind yourself of your own strength. When you offer kindness, you cultivate it within yourself. The forest does not thrive because each tree fights for itself. It thrives because each tree supports the other. So, what does this mean for your life? It means that resilience is not about enduring alone. It is about leaning on and lifting others. It means recognizing that asking for help is not weakness, but wisdom. It means understanding that your pain does not isolate you. It connects you to every person who has ever suffered and survived. And it means that in giving support, you receive it in return. Ask yourself, who in my life needs my light right now? And where do I need to let others light my path? Write it down, reflect on it, then reach out. Because the forest thrives together, and so do you. 9. The watchful guardian. A lighthouse does not stop the storm. It does not silence the waves or calm the raging sea. But what it does is even more powerful. It illuminates the danger before the ship crashes into the rocks. This is self-awareness. It does not erase pain, nor does it prevent every hardship. But it gives you clarity. It shows you where you are steering towards self-destruction and where you have the power to choose a different course. Without awareness, you are lost in the dark, moving blindly toward outcomes you never intended. But with it, you see the path before you, and you navigate with wisdom. To conquer oneself is a greater task than conquering others. These words from the Buddha remind us that the greatest battle is not with the outside world. It is within. Every day you face countless challenges. But the real struggle is not the stress of work, the criticism from others, or the uncertainty of the future. The real struggle is how your mind responds to them. When stress arises, do you react unconsciously, grabbing your phone, lashing out, shutting down? Or do you pause and become aware of what's happening inside you? The difference between suffering and resilience is not what happens to you. It is how awake you are to your own mind. Think of a moment when you felt overwhelmed. Your thoughts were racing, your emotions were high, and before you knew it, you were lost in reaction. Angry words spoken, bad habits repeated, important things neglected. But what if, in that moment, you had been the watchful guardian of your own mind? What if you had noticed the stress before it took over? The storm would still have been there, but instead of crashing into the rocks, you would have guided yourself safely through it. Imagine this in daily life. You are exhausted from work, your mind heavy with stress. Without awareness, you sink into distractions. Endless scrolling, unhealthy food, numbing yourself to escape. But with awareness, you catch yourself. You recognize, I am seeking comfort, but this will not nourish me. And in that moment, you regain control. You take a deep breath. You make a different choice. Maybe you go for a walk instead. Maybe you write down your thoughts. Maybe you just sit in silence and let yourself feel. This is the power of self-awareness. Not forcing yourself to be perfect, but catching yourself before you fall deeper into suffering. Here's the twist. The mind left unchecked will always steer toward destruction. Without awareness, negative thoughts becomes self-doubt. Self-doubt becomes inaction. Inaction becomes regret. The cycle continues. But the moment you become aware, you interrupt that cycle. You shine a light on the hidden corners of your mind, revealing the patterns that keep you stuck. And once you see them, you can change them. So, what does this mean for your life? It means that resilience is not just about enduring hardship. It is about noticing the thoughts that create suffering and choosing a new way forward. It means that awareness is your strongest weapon, your sharpest blade, your unshakable foundation. Without it, you are a ship at the mercy of the storm. With it, you are the lighthouse, standing firm, illuminating the truth. Ask yourself, what shadow in my mind needs light today? Write it down, reflect on it, then observe, without judgment, without reaction, simply with awareness. Because the more light you bring to your mind, the clearer your path becomes. 10. The compass of right action. X. A sailboat does not move by force alone. It is guided by the wind, but without the right sails, it drifts aimlessly, lost at sea. In life, your actions are your sails. Every choice, every decision is either steering you toward meaning or leaving you at the mercy of the storm. Many chase success without direction, pursuing wealth, recognition, or status, only to find themselves exhausted, unfulfilled, and wondering, is this all there is? But when you align your actions with integrity, with purpose, with what truly matters to you, your path becomes clear. You are no longer drifting, you are navigating with intention. Work out your own salvation, do not depend on others. The Buddha's words remind us that no one else can set our course for us. The world will tell you what success should look like, what career you should choose, what goals you should chase, but only you can decide what is truly worth pursuing. Many spend years climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. They sacrifice their peace for ambition, their values for validation, but real fulfillment does not come from reaching the top. It comes from knowing that every step you take is in alignment with who you are. Think of a moment when you felt truly at peace with your choices, not because they were easy, but because they were right. Maybe it was turning down an opportunity that didn't align with your values. Maybe it was choosing honesty when a lie would have been simpler. Maybe it was walking away from something that looked good on the outside, but felt wrong in your heart. That feeling, that deep inner knowing, is the compass of right action. It is not always the quickest path. It is not always the easiest. But it is the only one that leads to true resilience, because when you stand on a foundation of integrity, nothing can shake you. Imagine being in a career you despise, but staying because of status, money, or pressure. Every day drains you, but you tell yourself it's necessary. Now imagine making a change, not to something easier, but to something that aligns with your values. Maybe it pays less, maybe it's uncertain. But every morning, you wake up knowing your actions reflect who you truly are. That is the difference between living by force and living by purpose. Here's the twist. The destination is an illusion. You will never arrive. If you tie your happiness to an outcome, a title, a paycheck, an achievement, you will always feel like something is missing. But if you anchor yourself in the present moment, in the integrity of your actions, you will realize that the journey itself is the reward. The sailboat does not wait for the storm to pass before it moves. It adjusts its sails and continues forward. That is how you must live, not waiting for circumstances to be perfect, but choosing the right path despite the uncertainty. So, what does this mean for your life? It means questioning the direction you are moving in. It means asking, are my actions aligned with my values, or am I just following the wind of external expectations? It means remembering that success is not measured by what you achieve, but by whether you are at peace with how you achieved it. Ask yourself, What decision in my life needs the compass of right action? Write it down, reflect on it. Then adjust your sails. Because true resilience is not about reaching a destination. It is about knowing you are on the right path, no matter where it leads. Bonus lesson: the mirror of impermanence. A Tibetan monk spends days, sometimes weeks, carefully crafting an intricate sand mandala. Grain by grain, he creates a masterpiece of delicate beauty, only to sweep it away the moment it is finished. The lesson? Nothing lasts, not success, not failure, not even life itself. And yet, most people live as if time is infinite, postponing dreams, avoiding risks, fearing change. But when you truly understand impermanence, you stop clinging to what was, stop fearing what will be, and finally start living fully in the now. Even death is not to be feared by one who has lived wisely. The Buddha did not speak of death as an end, but as a reminder, a wake-up call to those sleepwalking through their lives, waiting for the right time to start, to love, to be happy. But there is no right time, there is only now. Think of how often fear holds you back, fear of failure, rejection, uncertainty. But if you knew your time was limited, if you knew today was your last, would those fears still have power over you? Or would you finally act? Imagine standing at the edge of your life, looking back. Would you regret the moments you failed, or the ones you never even tried? Would you mourn the times you embarrassed yourself, or the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken? Regret is not born from failure, it is born from hesitation. The harsh truth is, most of what you worry about, status, opinions, mistakes, will one day dissolve like a sand mandala, swept away by time. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the goal that slipped through your fingers, none of it will matter in the grand scheme of existence. What will matter is whether you lived with courage, with kindness, with purpose. Think of a storm, wild, overwhelming and frightening in the moment. But once it passes, the sky clears and life goes on. This is how impermanence works. Everything that feels too heavy right now, your struggles, your heartbreaks, your fears, will pass. And when they do, you'll see they were never as big as they seemed. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the illusion of control and moving with life instead of fighting it. Here's the twist. When you truly understand that everything is temporary, you become fearless. The fear of judgment fades when you realize that other people's opinions don't last. The fear of failure softens when you see that even failure doesn't stay forever, just another wave in the sea of your life. The fear of loss shifts when you realize that love is never really gone, only its shape changes. So what does this mean for your life? It means asking yourself the tough questions. What have I been putting off? What fears have been stopping me? If today were my last day, would I still feel afraid? Because the truth is, one day will be your last, and when that time comes, you'll either look back with regret or with deep peace, knowing you lived fully, loved deeply, and embraced each moment without holding back. Ask yourself, if today were my last, which storm in my life would suddenly feel unimportant? Write it down, think about it, and then take action. Because life, like a sand mandala, is meant to be lived, not feared. Here's a quick summary of the lessons. Master your mind. Focus on inner awareness instead of outside chaos. Your thoughts shape your reality. Emotional alchemy. Watch your emotions without reacting. Anger can bring clarity if you use it wisely. Grow through suffering. Pain isn't the enemy. Avoiding it is. Struggles help your spiritual growth. Keep moving forward. Resilience means progress, not clinging to the past. Letting go of the past builds strength for the future. Inner virtues matter. Create a strong foundation of compassion and wisdom. Outer storms can't shake a mountain. Trials are teachers. Challenges bring out your sharpest self. Avoided fires leave hidden potential untouched. Flexible endurance matters. Bend like bamboo to withstand the storm. Being too rigid leads to breaking. Surrender brings strength. Shared strength builds resilience. True strength grows through mutual support. Helping others also helps you. Self-awareness is key. Protect your mind like a lighthouse. With steady awareness, even the darkest thoughts fade. Set ethical goals. Let your actions come from values, not ego. The journey is more important than the destination. And now a reminder: impermanence. Death teaches us to live with urgency, live fully. Small fears disappear when you realize time is limited. The problem is, we think we have more time. Each breath is a stroke on the painting of your life. The lessons you've gained aren't just ideas, they're tools for survival. Resilience isn't about waiting for the storm to end. It's about dancing in the rain until the sun decides to shine. When you realize nothing is missing, the whole world feels like it's yours. True warriors don't fight against life. They move with it. Your pain, fears, and setbacks aren't barriers. They're the sharpening stones for your spirit. What if your deepest wounds are actually hidden maps to freedom? Pain is part of life, but suffering is a choice. You've spent years building walls. Buddhism invites you to build bridges to your pain, to others, and to the present moment. The moment you stop resisting is the moment you begin to truly live. The only real failure is not trying at all. Resilience isn't a finish line. It's having the courage to fall, to bleed, and to rise again. Every fall teaches something. Every scar is a mark of strength. The world needs your fire, not your ashes. The way out is through. Like Robert Frost said, you are both the storm and the calm. You are the battle and the peace. Now go, live like your soul is burning with purpose. If these truths touched you, hit the like button, share this video with someone lost in chaos, and subscribe to Deep Wisdom. Leave a comment too. Which lesson will you use as your strength first? Together, let's transform survival into a masterpiece.